Why am I up here? Well, I said, I'm a scientist, specifically I'm a physicist and a geophysicist. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from state universities in physics. I got my master's degree from CU. And I have a PhD in geophysics from Stanford. And that will come into play a little later while I'm talking. I've had many jobs. I've been a college professor, I've been a science researcher, I've been a government worker, I've been in small companies, I've been in large companies. I've had a lot of professional experience. You might say I'm an old guy, which is what I am. Okay, now, I'm going to talk to you about 3 topics now that we've established who I am and why I'm up here. First, why should you even bother listening to me? Second, the Legacy 2000 program is viewed by somebody from the outside. You've just heard teachers talking, they're on the inside, they love the program. Of course, that's part of it. They get paid by it, or thereabouts. You're going to hear from students are going to talk to you momentarily. They love it too, and these are the best students, okay? But what does it mean, as Jason pointed to, from somebody from the outside who's looking in? So I will talk to you a little about that. And then I'm going to talk to you about prestige universities. I know many of you parents out there would love to have your child go to a prestige university. And what do I mean by prestige university? Well, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, the ones that they, as you see on TV when they're interviewing somebody, okay? You'd love to have your kid go there, okay? Right? So, what I say, it ain't only, or it ain't all about grades. And we'll talk a little bit about prestige universities. Okay, so why should you, I'm getting ahead of myself. Why should you listen to me? First of all, I'll ask the question the other way. Why shouldn't you listen to me? Why should you not listen to me? I'm an old guy. And there was a line around a year ago, okay, boomer. Do you remember that? Well, I am definitely a boomer. I was born the first half of last century. Okay, so I'm definitely a boomer. So why listen to me, You're probably going to say, probably doesn't even know how to use his cell phone. Well, to me it's not a cell phone. It's a computer that you can use, you can make a telephone call with, okay? Although most people don't use it for a phone anymore, they don't use it for texting. I'm in the basement, my wife's upstairs, she texts me. Why? I don't know. Okay. Then why should you listen to me? Because I am an old guy. And certain things have not changed over the years since I was your age, or your parents' age, and now your grandparents' or your great-grandparents' age. Haven't changed. What hasn't changed? Education. We still start physics by teaching something that came through 400 plus years ago from a guy named Sir Isaac Newton. We still teach math using a rule called the rule of Pythagoras that comes from ancient Egypt originally. So some things in the education world haven't changed. And how we use education going forth haven't changed. Okay? So there's a lot of things that haven't changed that maybe I know a little bit about and maybe you'd like to hear about. So I'm going to tell you about them. Okay? But listening to me, that's your choice. So let's talk now, number 2, the Legacy 2000 program is viewed from the outside. Well, like I said, you've heard from all these people on the inside, and the truth of the matter is they're prejudiced, okay? They're like anybody you talk to that's gone to any university. Have you ever heard anybody say they went to a university? I went to the University of Iowa, it stinks. Don't go there, it's a horrible place. No! And these people are going to tell you how wonderful the program is. And it is. Because I can tell you from the outside looking in. And how did that come about? Okay? Well, I'm a member of, it's hard to lick your fingers with a mask, I've got 2 pages of notes, and I have no short-term or long-term memory at all, so I have to look at the notes. Okay, so as I said, I'm not part of the program, but what happens is I'm a member of an organization, a science organization or engineering organization here in Denver, and we have an outreach program, and we send professionals to various schools to talk to the students about what it's like. In this case, these are petroleum engineers, which I am not, but these are petroleum engineers, and they come and talk to the students, okay? And I came here a couple of years ago, it's been about 2 years, right, Jason, 2 or 3 years, came here and said, oh my golly, what a program, I gotta get involved with this. So I badgered him to get involved with it, and then COVID came along. And so we haven't been able to do some of the things that we've talked about. But still, we set up last spring, a virtual visitation by about a half a dozen scientists who came to both the freshman class and the junior class and broke into small groups and talked to the students. And they talked each for about 10 minutes, and then they moved to another group of students. I went through and interviewed all of the people that we had, and it was probably about a dozen and a half. And to a person, and it was men and women who were interviewing and talking to the students, to a person they said, I wish that program were around when I was in school. That program is incredible, right? So you guys are about to embark on something that is incredible. Tough? Yeah. But that's good, As you said, diamonds are made with pressure, okay? So it's wonderful, okay? So you are about to do it, going into a program that is incredible, as viewed from the outside, as viewed by professionals. And the professionals that interviewed varied from people who were in professions for 3 or 4 years, hot out of graduate school, hot out of undergraduate school, all the way up to old, I'm going to use that word because I like to, all the way up to old farts like me, okay? And when we looked at it, we're going, wow, what a program. This is incredible. I mean, you signed up for 1 year. If I were you, I'd sign up for 4 years right now. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, prestige universities. It ain't all about the grades, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, let me tell you a little story. I'm an alum at Stanford, so I get some information about Stanford. 2 years ago, a large number of students applied to the university, okay? Freshmen, seniors in high school. Okay, how many think that was 10,000? Raise your hand. None. How many think it was 20,000 seniors in high school applied? Nobody thought, boy, everybody's afraid to raise their hands. All right. All right, you think about 20,000? Go on. How many think it was 30,000 or so? Okay, wrong. How many think it was around 40,000? Raise your hands. It was just over 40,000 seniors from high school applied to Stanford. How many do you think got accepted? 100? You say 100? 1,000. Okay. No. Okay. That would be 1 in 40, right? Or 1 in 400, right? Or no, 1,000, that would be 1 in 40. You're the mathematician, I'm a physicist. Okay. No, actually, to cut to the chase, it was about 1,700. So the truth of the matter is, the possibility of getting into a place like Stanford is pretty tough. 1,700 out of over 40,000. You can do the math and come up with about 4%. It's tough, okay? Now, it ain't all about grades. How many of those 40,000 students had really good grades? A lot of them, more than a lot of them. 95% of those who applied had a 3.7 in high school or higher, okay? Or 99%, rather 99% had a 3.7 or higher. 95% had a 4.0 or higher in high school for their grades. So what does that mean? Just to be considered, and I can tell you firsthand, or not firsthand, having talked to people, every one of those applicants was read by at least 3 people, their application, okay? So there are a lot of people reading those applications. It wasn't done by a computer algorithm. It was done by humans, okay, looking at the application for. But, okay, of those 1,700, 1,400 accepted and went to school there. The other 300 went someplace else, right? So the grades allow you to play in the game. What separates you from the other people in the 40,000? Okay, that's the question. Somebody have an answer?
Extracurriculars?
Extracurricular? Wrong. Good question though, because that's what a lot of people think. Oh, well, look, I'll join the French club, and I'll join the thespian club, and I'll join the chess club, and I'll run track, and I'll do all these things, and that will look really good. So they see through that. They know that. Okay? You can join all those things, you can even be the president of it. They don't care about those things so much. So what do they care about? All right. Demonstrated by the students applying. Demonstrated. Okay, that's part of what this program will allow you to do as being a stepping stone toward these things I'm going to list. Demonstrated passion, depth, breadth of intellectual pursuits and achievement. Passion, depth, and breadth of intellectual pursuits. That's not extracurricular activity, is it?
Nope.
Nope. Thank you. I'm glad you speak out. You're good. I like you. Maturity. Again, demonstrated. Okay? Intellectual curiosity and how he or she satisfied that curiosity. Right? I judge the science fair here in the Denver area, in Colorado, and this past year I judged the International Science Fair. And the people at the International Science Fair especially showed a lot of curiosity and how they tried to satisfy that, okay? How they went about it. A lot of the projects that I saw were started in 9th grade or 8th grade and were continued on. And they were working with a professional, but the student did the work. That was one of the things that the paperwork that we looked at showed. It wasn't done by some professor over at CU. It was done by a student. But the professor oversaw, helped that. Impact in school and community. Demonstrated impact in school or community. Demonstrated capacity for engagement. Okay? As we talked about getting up and giving talks, you're scared the first time you do it. After you do it for a while, it's not hard. Okay? Capacity for engagement, leadership. The president of the French club doesn't quite do it. That's too easy. Some other type of leadership where you've shown some of these other things. And the ability to articulate intellectual ideas, to reason. Does that sound like what you just heard from these people? To reason, to question, and to argue persuasively. Parents, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to argue with a child who's persuasive in arguing, right? When parents argue, they want to win, right? Yeah, but to argue persuasively and perhaps eloquently. Okay? Well, that's all I have to say except for one thing. I was not at Woodstock in 1969. Just want to let you know. However, that said, today is the 52nd anniversary of the last day of Woodstock. So how about that? And I'll be here for a Q&A.
All right, thank you, Dr. Marr. Well, I thought you were going to do the Star Spangled Banner and set the guitar on fire. Okay.
I told you, no memory.
Okay. Well, we are now going to get to the, I hope you're not offended by this, but the real important part of tonight's presentation, and that is to bring up some of our student presenters. So, One of the strengths of this program is that students give back. They become true believers and they buy in and they want to support future generations of students. So you're going to see some students here who can be your mentors, who will be there for you if you guys have questions, who can provide lots of advice and sort of maybe even a shoulder to cry on. So here are our student presenters. We have current students. These are all freshmen from last year who happen to be in my class. And so these young folks are going to come up here along with some alumni who have graduated. So we've got Raina, Haley, Kate, and Krupa who are going to come up to the stage. I'm going to let them just kind of all come up here in whatever order they happen to end up on the stage. And we'll just do a pass the mic. Does that sound okay? Okay. Come on up. They were going to march and sing a song and chant. I guess they didn't get that. All right. So it looks like Haley is first. Okay. Good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Haley Henry. I am a junior at Colorado State University. O'Brien's. Initially, the reason I was interested in this program is the same reason that a lot of people are interested in STEM programs. One, learn about STEM subjects, and two, it looks great on a college application, right? But L2k can certainly provide those things to you, but it can also provide a lot more than that. My freshman year in the program, I wrote a paper, a log, about pens, how they work, different types of ink, riveting, I know. It wasn't very interesting to write. It certainly wasn't very interesting to read. And a friend of mine asked me, why you write a paper about pens? And I couldn't give them a good answer. And that was the turning point for me. You see, L2k is not just a STEM program. And I was looking at it in that way. And the problem with looking at L2k as it's just another STEM program is that you can't use it as it's intended. L2k is intended to be a platform for growth. Intellectually, personally, professionally. So I encourage all of you to approach this program with that in mind. Take each project, each paper, one step further by asking yourself, what can I get from this outside of the rubric? Is it that I want to pursue a potential passion? Or do I want to refine my interpersonal skills? L2k is a tool that you can use to grow in any way that you choose. So what I ask of all of you is to be highly intentional and highly thoughtful about the way in which you approach this program and the projects that come with it. And I certainly hope that none of you find yourselves writing about something as mundane and thoroughly uninteresting as pens. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emma Hamilton, and as indicated by the screen, I'm an incoming sophomore here at Legacy. Jason Cianfrance, current L2k director, approached me about this opportunity a few weeks ago. When I first heard about it, I had absolutely no hesitation to say yes. Why do you ask? The Legacy 2000 or L2k program. As a STEM-based program, L2k offers enrichment in writing, speaking, and communication skills, among other things, of course. Today, I will be limiting you and families on my path during the program. For me, logs or research papers were the most valuable part of freshman year. Getting to choose topics to write about gave me a lot of freedom. I'm sure many of you are looking for just that. For example, as one of my log topics, I chose ultra running. My mom was an ultra runner, and the personal connection alone gave me a lot to speak of. As I entered my freshman year, though, upperclassmen kept telling me one thing: do not procrastinate. I promise that it is true, both in L2k and other classes, though it may sound like a broken record. As a perfectionist, I like to get ahead, which can be both a good and a bad thing. Speaking from experience, make a hard effort to stay on top of your assignments. Even if it is 30 minutes on a log, it is still time spent being productive, instead of scrolling through TikTok or Instagram. As an L2k student, you will be held to a higher standard. This can be difficult, though it makes other classes more manageable. My tip, make every minute count. To parents, simply be supportive. There may be frustration, some tears, and that is completely normal. As a freshman, students already deal with a heavier workload. Adding L2k on top of that can definitely create more stress. But these situations will prepare your students for the future, and that is the very epitome of L2k. Truthfully, L2k should not be hard. As students spend time every day on their assignments, communicate with their teachers, and ask for revisions, specifically on log in advance, L2k should be enjoyable. Just like the way the tiles on this Rubik's Cube match up when the colors perfectly align. I leave you with this. Anything is possible if you just put your mind to it. I wish you all the best of luck.
Hello and welcome incoming L2k students and parents. My name is Jack Fay, and just last year I was a freshman in this program, a program that I genuinely enjoyed. L2k is very unique and rewarding. It spoke to my interest and motivated me to apply myself. But to be perfectly honest, that is not how I saw my time within this program going. Last August, as I assume many of you are now, was nervous about the new expectations, stressed about the workload ahead of me, and uncertain as to whether or not I could perform adequately within this class. So, my goal here tonight is to take a little of that weight off your shoulders by explaining to you the most important aspects of L2k and educating the parents on what is best to do for their children. Now, like I previously mentioned, L2k is a very different educational experience from what most of you have previously participated in. And for me, the biggest variation is the manner in which you learn. Now, granted, L2k will provide a few predetermined topics, such as college sections and time management, which are already on the screen. But for the most part, you are able to pick what you want to learn about. So, as long as it is in some way related to STEM, you can choose a topic, research it, and then present it in the form of a paper, a speech, or whatever the required format is for that given assignment. As far as picking your topics goes, stick to your interests. Reiterating what my own L2k teacher told me, when you research and work on an assignment that you truly enjoy, it will come off much easier and much better quality by the end of the project. And quality is an extremely important facet of L2k. The expectations related to the work you produce are much harsher than they were previously. So, drawing on one of my own experiences here, if your page numbers are a different font than the rest of your paper than what is required, you will have a 5% deduction from your overall grade. It sucks. Please make sure you understand what is expected of you and then triple check that you have met those standards. Now, by far the most important part of L2k is time management, something I didn't do very well. When you have an assignment, you only have X amount of time to complete it, and that assignment will be accompanied by those from other classes and additional commitments that can make the experience miserable. Please do not procrastinate. If you take anything away from what I've said, do not procrastinate. Work on your assignments daily, and like Emma said, even if it's for only 30 minutes, you will have a wonderful experience within this class. Now for the parents. Your children will be overwhelmed this year. I'm not going to cushion it at all. It may suck. You be there for them when they need it and applaud them even when they don't. There may be a drop-off period with lower grades or missing other classes occasionally. It will pass in time. Just be there for them and make sure they enjoy their experience within L2k. It is a truly wonderful program, and I don't say that lightly. Thank you.
Did you know that there's a rare neurological condition called synesthesia, where there's an overlapping in the sensory regions of your brain, and for some people with synesthesia, they can actually taste sounds. And I know that sounds crazy, but I dedicated one of my blogs to this topic, and it ended up being one of the most fascinating things I had done all throughout my freshman experience at school. So that's the beauty of L2k. In this class, you are going to be able to explore your own personal interests and maybe find new interests that you didn't know you had before. After being in a year of L2k, I can now give you a brief overview of what the program is like and some tips on how to make the most out of your L2k experience. So throughout the year, you are going to have to do a bunch of vlogs, you're probably going to have to do some speeches and some group work and other assignments. But 3 things really got me through the year, and that was you have to have an open mind, the power of perseverance, and then again, time management skills. So to start, having an open mind. The class itself is designed to push you out of your comfort zone. So if you just embrace the task at hand and you're not afraid to make mistakes, you will be a successful student. I know I had to learn open-mindedness, especially when it came to taking feedback from my teachers or my peers. But being able to adapt to constructive criticism made me a successful student. In addition to open-mindedness, perseverance. There is a college study project that you have to do your freshman year, and in this project you have to interview college students for various different schools. When I first sent out my emails, I got 0 replies, and so over 20 emails later, I finally got 5 students who were willing to interview with me. And so that just shows that the assignments in L2k might be challenging, but they're never impossible. And then lastly, time management. You're probably going to hear this a lot of times tonight, but it truly is crucial in L2k. There's a misconception that L2k takes over your entire life, and trust me, it doesn't. I was able to hang out with my friends, do extracurricular activities, and complete all my schoolwork by simply utilizing the time given in class and then spending, like I said, 30 minutes a night on L2k. And then before I finish up, I want to give some advice to all the parents out there. I would just say, be open and be willing to listen to your student. I know when I had a speech coming up, I would print out the rubric, I would give it to my parents, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna give my speech 4 times for you and make sure I hit all the points on the rubric. And I know they were very tired of hearing my voice at the end of the night, but the next day I was confident and ready to go to give my speech, and I was very appreciative of them for that. So with all that being said, L2k is such a fun and rewarding class. You're gonna make so many great friends, you're gonna learn so many new skills, and yeah, welcome to L2k.
Well, hello everyone, my name is AJ Pilardo, and I want to focus tonight's speech on the idea that attitude towards L2k can really affect your experience. Legacy 2000 is definitely one of those classes where you truly do get out what you put in, but that doesn't necessarily mean dedicating your whole life to the program or even being the smartest in the class. In fact, what I found helped me the most freshman year was the way I actually approached the program. I'm just going to be straight up honest and say L2k is a hard class and it will challenge you in ways you haven't necessarily been challenged before. However, it's how you view these challenges in the material that will ultimately determine your success. Just as an example, when I'd be working on a paper and I just couldn't seem to find any motivation to keep going, I decided to view the project not as an assignment, but rather as something I was doing in my free time. Now, don't take this the wrong way, there was still a deadline than it was for a grade, but it definitely helped me to feel more confident and passionate about the project. So instead of coming home and writing a paper for a class, I was now coming home and writing about something that I was really interested in, without feeling like I was told to. Video games are fun, but if your teacher told you to spend an hour each night playing them, it definitely loses some of its appeal. Another thing I want to emphasize, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of this throughout L2k, is to choose topics that are interesting to you. Treat the assignments as a template that you can build off of with your own ideas and research. And the same thing goes for parents too. If your child is working on a project that has to do with something in your field of work, absolutely share with them some information you have. I think parents should be used as a resource during L2k, and even some of the projects freshman year require parent interview, which can definitely add to the project as a whole. And finally, if I were to go back and tell my freshman self one thing, it would be to enjoy the journey. There was a few times this summer where I'd just be lying around and think to myself, I would really miss giving speeches. Of course, waiting to give a speech was crazy nerve-wracking, but ultimately that's not the stuff you look back on. Instead of struggling towards the finish line in L2k, just take a moment to take a step back and really enjoy everything that's going on, because you will be there eventually. And really just, enjoy the journey, all that. So my main takeaway with L2k is treat your class as your friend, not your enemy. You'll get there eventually, and really just enjoy it while you can, and look back at yourself later and be, wow, I came that way, I went over those challenges, and applaud yourself in the end, even if it is challenging when you're going through it. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Amy Wheatley. I'm going to be a sophomore this year, and I'm not going to lie to you. The first I absolutely hated it. I thought this is the worst I could get me. I wasn't really even interested in STEM topics, and I just found it way too much work. But come second semester, I really started to get into it, and I came to the realization that it's not all about the STEM topics. It helps you improve with life skills that you're going to need for your career later on, and it's like a very valuable class to take. I also realized Mr. Senior isn't out to get me. He's just giving me constructive feedback that I can build up off of and make me into a better student. So basically, I think I told my parents about 3 or 4 times, I'm done. I'm not taking it next year, not going to happen ever again. And here I am, taking it again. This is just because I realized, like, this isn't just about school. It's about later in life when you are going out for interviews or you're trying to go and succeed in your new career. So I just kind of pushed through and started managing my time better, started actually getting invested, finding topics that I was interested in, and like just about everything can be connected back to STEM. So I did one on like credit cards, and you can track it back because of the technology. Or I did a lot on like your brain and political ideology. So any of your interests can be connected back. So go off on whatever path you want, find something you're interested in, and then try your best to link it back to science, technology, engineering, and math. And then for the parents, I'd say I'm a pretty independent worker. I really don't like help from my parents, but they kept pushing me to be better, and they kept asking me for help, and by the end of the year, I was up there the night in our TV room the night before speech, giving it to them over and over and over again until I figured out it was perfect, and that's when my grades started to go up. So basically my message is just keep pushing, keep being there for your kid, even when they say they don't want it, because it's a tough. That's about it.
Hello everyone, my name is Kurt Sermonium. I'm a recent graduate of the L2k program. Yes, there are some roots out there. There are a couple of battle scars, but go ahead. And I'm going to Yale University's fall studying biomedical engineering and public health on a 3-minute track. Miss West and Mr. Santorns and a couple of students up here today have all sort of talked about the same thing, but I want to sort of more explicitly talk about it for the next couple of moments, talking about the sort of ideology and mentality that we should have in the L2k program. Now, going to the L2k program, I was that one student who would always